Greetings, my brothers and sisters. This is Hannibal Cambone, aka Original Frog, lighting bolt for the oppressor and love for the people. That's what Hannibal Cambone means. Now, getting to the matter at hand, my book, my autobiography, has been completed, and I'm ready to give up details in this gang history of the Crips and Bloods, dealing with Watts in Compton. I want to start off by saying the majority of my subjects of my book have photographs to back up what I'm talking about. And my first subject would be Chapter 1, Straw Dog, better known as Gary Barker, strictly Bounty Hunter, or Bounty Hunter strictly. January 1974, I end up AWOL from a boys' home. And when I got caught within hours behind a murder case that happened at Lock High that I didn't do, they sent me to East Lake Juvenile Hall because they found out I was an escapee from a boys' home. So while I was in Juvenile Hall, January 74, my homeboy Gary Barker was in G&H, where the big boys, the guys who are 17 years old, they go to G&H, the original Crips, the big boys, they go there. And the younger ones, like my age, 15 and 16, we was in C&D unit. So day one, when I ended up in C&D unit, the counselor of the unit asked me where I was from. And I noticed that a gang of teenagers was watching me, being nosy. And what did I do? I had to put it on thick and heavy. And I yelled out, Bounty Hunter. And all in the background, I was hearing, Carib, Carib, Carib. And I said, oh, okay. But nobody never came in the bathroom. When I walked in the bathroom, it confronted me. So I felt that it was okay. I got away with that. So when they had yard, we all bailed out to the yard on the basketball court. And guess who I ran into? Straw Dog, Original Bounty Hunter. And the first thing I did when I walked up to him in the crowd of Crips he was standing around, I yelled, this is Bounty Hunter. And nobody didn't say nothing but Straw Dog. He said, be cool, homeboy, be cool. Calm down, calm down. What I realized that Gary, AKA Straw Dog, was cool with all the Crips in G&H wing, the big Crips. So everything was cool. There wasn't nobody tripping on nobody. So I had to slow my roll and hang out with Gary and just be myself instead of trying to bang. And wasn't nobody banging on each other. Everybody was just chilling, playing basketball, whatever. You had the PJ Crips, the West Side, East Side Crips. Wasn't nobody tripping on the Bounty Hunter Gary, Straw Dog. So being that was my homeboy, they wasn't tripping on me. So I'm rolling with Gary for at least about 3 weeks in Juvenile Hall. He's in G&H, I'm in C&D. We meet up in the kitchen together and we kick it. So that went on for 3 weeks. He ended up getting out. And I ended up going back to the boys' home. But the thing about that is that Gary always been a man of finesse. I always liked his style. He's not Joe Barker, he's Gary Barker. He's the one, if you watch The Godfather, he's like Michael Corleone. He's a thinker. Joe Barker, he's like Michael Corleone's older brother named Sonny. He's violent, he's rowdy, he'll stomp you to death, he'll beat you to death with his hands. But Gary, he's the type of guy, he'll give you a pass and let you dig your own grave. In other words, Gary will give you enough rope to hang yourself. And that's the Straw Dog that I know of intelligence compared to Joe Barker, which is a violent man. Okay, now I want to go to August of 1974, the Watts Summer Festival.
Wait, before we go to August of 1974, can you briefly just tell us that 1974 murder at Locke High School, that was a very high profile murder because it was the sister of a future Olympian, and apparently the story is a stray bullet hit her brother Valerie Briscoe Hooks' brother. Can you just briefly talk about that before you go to the next part?
Okay, I would say this. They try to say that he was an at this park boy because he lived in that community. Back in them days, where you lived at is where you was from. They didn't care if you was a Crip or a Blood or whatever you claim. If you lived in that neighborhood, you banging. And that's how people act back in them days in the 70s. If you live in Nickerson Garden and you don't claim Bouty Hunter, and they find out you live in Nickerson Garden, they're gonna beat you down still because you live in the Bouty Hunter community. So they felt that it probably was justifiable in the Crips' eyes that it happened anyway. But from my understanding, the guy who was the shooter, he ended up getting killed a year later. Very quick. And they didn't even arrest, they arrested him, but they released him. He gave him a slap on the wrist. Now, personally, I got my own opinion on who killed him or how he died, but I'll let you buy the book and you'll see what my opinion is on that.
Okay.
Now, dealing with Cukes, Magnificent Seven, me and him had a brief talk about this conversation. And the only way I knew it was Cukes for sure, the Blue Ace Deuce and his voice. I always knew it was him since I've been on YouTube for the last 7, 8 years, but I didn't have no evidence. But once he mentioned the Haciendas, I knew I had my evidence. I would never ever bring charges on nobody without evidence. I don't care if I know for a fact you did it, but if I don't have nothing to back it up, just like King Baba Louie, if you ain't got nothing to back it up, you might as well shut up. And that's how I feel. Shut up or have something to back it up. Anyway, I'm gonna just go into it very briefly. I'm not going to give you full details. The Bounty Hunters and Power Rules hooked up in the Nickerson Garden and marched to Red Roger Park. When they marched to Red Roger Park, they ran into the bishops. And when we hooked up with the bishops, some guy that we didn't know from nowhere walked up right between us and asked us, were we Crips? What do you think happened to that guy and his Blue Ace Deuce? I'm gonna leave it right there. I'm not gonna go no farther than that. But I will say this much. That guy with that Blue Ace Deuce, he came back. And there was a big Crip and Blood. Well, we wasn't Blood at the time. It was a big Crip and those who are against Crips. War. And we all went to jail, or the majority of us went to jail, or half of us went to jail. But we went to jail because the sheriffs beat all our butts and took us down to Firestone Sheriff Station. And my mother came and got me out the next morning. I was only 16 at the time. I believe Cukes had to be 17. But it's one thing that I do admire about Cukes is that he confessed it, that he know the Haciendas didn't have nothing coming back then. The Haciendas wasn't even on the map. Haciendas always been our territory. When I say our territory, I'm talking about the Bounty Hunters territory. Haciendas never went to war with nobody in 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79. It was always Bounty Hunters of Watts that was going to war.
Was the bishops in the Haciendas? Was that their turf?
No,
Okay.
We met the bishops inside the park. The Ludus Park came and met us inside the Nickerson Garden, and we walked through the Haciendas. And Cukes probably thought because we came through a Hacienda that we was Hacienda Village Boys, or because we went back that way, we was Hacienda Village Boys. But no, we was always Bounty Hunters in Hacienda's territory, which was our patrolling. We patrolled that to the fullest. Haciendas don't even have enough people. They don't even, in the 70s, you can't even name a real reputable person that the Crips know from the Haciendas that got into it with them. You can't find no Joe Barkers in the Haciendas. You can't find no Ray Boyce in the Haciendas. Come on, man. You can't find no Junior Thomas or Kenny Trash in the Haciendas. They don't exist. And the reason why? Because the Nickerson Garden is the backbone of Watts when it comes to pushing the line against the Crips. not the Halcyonas. They didn't exist. The only thing they can do is observe and spectate, and that's all they can do is learn how we fish. You know, sometimes it's better to teach a man how to fish than to give him a fish, and that's how the Halcyonas had to learn. We taught them how to fish. Okay, now we're gonna leave that alone right there. Okay, now we'll go to chapter 3, the At This Port Girls. Chapter 3, September of '74. You know my homeboy Percy Jackson, the one who started Bounty Hunters, gave the name Bounty Hunter in the 8th grade, 1971, 1972. He was only 14 years old. When 1973 came in, he introduced the Bounty Hunters to the At This Port Boys. He have a relative that is original Pork Boy, and they used to go over there and kick it with his relatives, and they even hooked up one time to put work in on the Main Street Crips together. Back in 1973, they rolled down Main Street and gave Main Street Crips all hell, the Bounty Hunters and the At This Port. Now, I don't know what made the Bounty Hunters mess with a little gang like the Main Streets. I would think they would ride down on something like the West Side Crips. But they went on Main Street because Main Street runs through At This Port hood. So the Bounty Hunters just assisted them. Junior Thomas, Percy Jackson, and the Bounty Hunters handling their business with the At This Port Boys. And they started even kicking it with us on a regular in 1973. So fast forward, here it is now, 1974, I run into some At This Port girls in Nickerson Garden one night. And they asked me to walk them all the way to Imperial Highway and San Pedro. And I dropped them off right there, walking right by Gompers. And they went down San Pedro and made it to At This Port, all the way to like 120 something. Probably 126, 127 in San Pedro. That's where their hood starts at, on San Pedro. So I end up messing with a female from At This Port named Regina Morris, or Norris. And they call her Little Dark from At This Port. She used to mess with Michael Ford brother named Stinky Ford. And I end up messing with her to the point where I even got into a fight with him behind her, coming over At This Port, creeping on her like that. She had a thing for me because she felt that, hey, she even made a statement one day saying I look like Stinky Ford. I didn't like it, but hey, it is what it is. I guess she was attracted to me because she was in love with him, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, the bottom line is I end up in Lock High, and I seen her in Lock High marching with her homegirls, Susie Q. You know what I'm saying? That's Art's sister. She's the original At This Port girl leader. And they were wearing bomber jackets, going through Lock High like they owned the place. And I even got into it with her one time. Yes, Regina, 126 or 127 off of Main Street. She was very upset at me because I stopped coming by her house. So one day at Lock High, she was on one side of the fence line on 111 between San Pedro and Avalon, and I was inside the school on the fence line talking to her. And she had a pistol on her, talking about shooting me because I wouldn't come over her house no more. She started hating me because she felt I hit and run, I guess. But that wasn't the case. You know what I'm saying? I just didn't want to keep going over to her hood. You know what I'm saying? And she was talking about doing something to me, and she had different lanes all behind her. They coming from Gompers and everything to back her up. I seen Peabody and a gang of more different lanes posted up behind her. I didn't even know that was Peabody until later on down the line, but they was all in our business because Park and Lane was together. That's right, I said Park and Lane. They didn't say At This Port back in the days. They used to holler out Park, just like that. It wasn't no APB, it was only Park and Lanes. And those are the ones I knew from At This Port in different lanes. The real ones, Joe Robinson, Little Art, Milo, Little Louie. It was a gang up. Oh yeah, my boy Black Glove, he was there. You know what I'm saying? And the lanes, they was right there too. You know, Rubber Leg, Peabody, Choo Choo, and it's a host of them, man. And I was the only bounty hunter that was at Lock High, and it made me feel uncomfortable because I'm thinking they might jump me behind this female. And it turned into one thing or another where they realized that, hey, we might as well hook him up with us. So I end up rolling with the Devil Lanes and at this park, thanks to Regina Norris, the original park girl who tried to get me jumped on, but it turned out that I started ending up going over Peabody House and hanging out with his family members. I even spent the night over his mama house on 109th off of Fig, between Fig and Denver. So she really did me a favor by introducing me to the park and lanes. So that was all good. Even though my boy Percy Jackson, he was the original who first hooked the original park and lanes and Bounty Hunters up. Well, not Devil Lane, but the At This Park boys and Bounty Hunters first hooked up with Percy Jackson. So when I started hanging out with them, I started seeing Percy Jackson in their neighborhood. I was surprised. I started seeing Little Bit in their neighborhood. Little Bit is my homeboy. He's the one who broke in the house and stole a 30-30 Winchester rifle, brand new. Junior Thomas was tearing up the East Side Crips all down Central with that 30-30 rifle. That 30-30 rifle even tore off the Carver Park something. You know what I'm saying? That 30-30 rifle wasn't no joke. Brand new too. That's the reason why Raymond Washington wanted the bishops to kill or do something to Junior Thomas. You know what I'm saying? Because Junior Thomas was handling his business on that east side and he was setting them on fire. And they must have went to complain to Raymond that this dude, Junior Thomas, is putting work in on us. He shot Anthony Baylots also. Yeah, Junior wasn't no joke. He was sniping with that 30-30 Winchester.
Real quick, before you continue, can you tell me what year was it when you met Peabody and what was he like when you first, crossed paths with him?
When I met Peabody, I was walking through Lock High one day and I saw a guy writing on the wall, a building or a door inside the lunch area. And I was curious. He was the only one out there in the lunch area writing on the wall, on the door. I walk up and I look to see what he was writing, and he wrote Mafia Lane. And I went to Mafia Lane, and I asked him, what is that? And he was like, yeah, the Devil Lane thing. And I was like, whoa, man, okay. And he asked me where I was from. I told him Bounty Hunter. Come to find out, his name is Preach from Mafia Lane. Guess what? True history. Before there was Devil Lanes, there were Mafia Lanes from 112th and Figueroa. Before there was Devil Lanes.
What year?
1972 or 3. There was Mafia Lane. And then it went from 112th and spread it around all the way up to 120th, all the way down to 105th. Everything became Devil Lane or Menlo Lane. But that 112th Street, just like the Nickerson Garden, was the headquarters.
Was the 105 freeway there?
No, there was no 105 freeway.
Okay, so it just was all the way through.
It went all the way through. All the way through. You know, that 112th crossed Imperial to 120th, which became Menlo Lanes, and going back towards Century is Devil Lanes also. They call their street D6, better known as Dangerous 6, 106. Peabody in them street is called K9, which means Killer 9, because they got all the murders on their streets. Those Killer 9s, that's the street Peabody and his crew is from. But 112th Mafia Lane is the origin of the Devil Lanes.
Now, I wonder if they're tied into the Crenshaw Mafias that came out in the 80s, because later the Denver Lanes and the Crenshaw Mafias had a thing together.
Pure coincidence. That's all that is. Pure coincidence. You know what I'm saying? Just like BH, it means what? Beverly Hills. I'm not from Beverly Hills, I'm from Bounty Hunter. So that's a coincidence. I wish I was from Beverly Hills. I'd be wearing the BH for clothes all around. What they call them? Louis Vuitton and all them nice clothes Beverly Hills got. So it was just a coincidence. That's all it was. Nothing but a coincidence. Okay. Now I'm going to go to chapter 4. This is Little Vince's sister. Her name is Renee Owens, rest in peace. And I went to Centennial High with her. She used to be my girlfriend in elementary at 112th Street School before they left the Nickerson Garden. They stayed in the Nickerson Garden back in the 60s, and I knew the Orange family very well. They all went to 112th Street School with me. But before they can get out of 112th Street School, they moved to Piru Street. So that means they end up in Vanguard and Compton, not Compton, but Centennial. But they left, his sister left me when she was in the 3rd grade. I was 8 years old, she was 8 years old. But when I ended up in Centennial, I didn't even know who she was. 8 years later, she walked right up in my face and said, my full government name. And we kicked it for 6 months straight from, I would say, 74 of November to like June 75. So I would say about 6 months we hung in there together.
And she's from the same family.
She's from the Orange family, right off of Pomalee and Paru Street. Been living there since like about 66, 67, 68. You know, she went there when she was in elementary. So I stopped seeing her when she was around 8 or 8. So when I did run into her, she was 16, like I was 16. Another incident had happened inside the Sherry Caprice during that period of time. The bounty hunters end up going to a party inside the Sherry Caprice because the kleptos, AKA bounty hunter girls, wanted to throw a party for Terry Moses. He just came home out of camp during the fall of 74. So we went on over there, but I already knew one Crip that was up in the Sherry Caprice apartment, and that was Godfather from the original West Side Crips. Me and him, we had a run in, and he didn't show his face, and no Crips showed their face at the party we was at. Maybe they didn't know we was there, but we was up in there doing the bump, that new dance called the bump, and did nothing, you know, really jump off. I don't even think we had no guns or nothing. If Zane or Willie Herb or Felton Herb would have showed up, we just would have had to fight, because that's all we had was probably knuckle sandwiches. You know, we didn't come to kill nobody. We came to party. But then nothing happened, so we was there for a couple of hours, and everything went peacefully inside the Carver Park hood. And that was a feather in our hat that I feel I can speak on, you know. And that just about ends chapter 4 that I'm going to speak on.
Okay, before you go on to the next chapter, what can you tell me about Godfather, original West Side Crip?
Well, he got confronted before we went to this party. Me and the homeboy confronted him. And I like Godfather because he represented what he represent. And he's a real one. I give real ones their props. He claimed that. He kind of like remind me of AC in a sense, the way he hollered it out. He didn't give us what they call a puny shout out. He was a real one when he represent that West Side.
Was he from out the hundreds or from St. Andrews Park?
Good question, because I don't know. Only thing I remember him hollering out, Godfather, West Side, or he hollered out, West Side, Godfather. But I knew that was like a what they call a compound word. He made it seem like it all went together. He didn't say Crip, but I knew he was a Crip by the way he represented that, you know.
Now, he wasn't tied into the Godfathers, which eventually came out of the Harlems.
You know what? Good question, because him and Pookie, you know, they all in that West Side thing together. They got a West Side connection with that Harlem thing, you know. So I don't know how that come about, but it could be some type of connection there that he probably was a Godfather from the Harlem thing also.
Because the Godfathers was all the way in the Harlems, and I think they went down into the Marvins. All of this.
They also had some Godfathers on the East Side over there where the 8-9 family was at before they was 9-7 East Coast or 9-7 Crips over there off of Central and Wadsworth. 97. They were also back in 73. They called themselves the Godfathers. Yeah, and they called themselves the Black Mafia Crip Dogs over there where. Which is now called
Main Street?
Right up in there near Bebop Watts, before you get to Bebop Watts. 99 on back to probably about 97, 98, up in that area. You know, there was Black Mafia Crip Dogs. And then Compton Avenue, before they was East Coast, all down that way, they was also Mafia Crips. You know what I'm saying? Back in 73. They was the Mafia Crips.
Do you remember any names from the Black Mafia Crip Dogs?
You know what, man? I used to see names all on the wall when I used to be going down Central on the bus. But I can't remember not one name, you know what I'm saying, of them cats. But I used to see they hook up all down Central, all down Compton Avenue, you know. And I think, I can't remember no names. And that's kind of weird. But I remember the graffiti real good.
The last thing I wanted to ask you before you move on about Black Mafia, Crip Dog, right? Black
Okay.
Mafia Crip Dog. I have a 1978 gang map that I found, and they're on there. Someone wrote in Black Mafia Crip Dog,
Come on with it.
something like that.
Yeah, they exist.
So 78, they were still kind of, I guess, near the end of their run.
Yes.
In 78.
Okay.
Because they don't make it into the 80s.
Guess what? When we was at the festival in 74, the second time we went up there after the Cute incident, the melee, we went up there with a pistol. One of my homeboys had a 22 stashed on him in his jock strap. And while we was walking up there, the police stopped us and didn't find the gun. So we went up to Roger Park and got into it with some Crips. They was all standing in a circle over there by Central and Century Boulevard on that end of the park, of Roger Park. And we got in the circle with them. And it was about 10 on 10. And one guy asked us, where y'all from? Or we asked them where they were from. And one guy said, Black Mafia Crip Dog. And I tripped off of that because I always seen that on the wall. And when we told him we was bounty hunters, he made mockery at my little homeboy named Bounty Hunter James. But that's another story because that same guy who called himself Black Mafia Crip Dog, when he made that mockery, you got to buy the book now to find out what happened to him.
All right, go on. What chapter we on now?
We're on chapter 5.
Okay.
Okay. Chapter 5 is called Mission Impossible. And the reason why I named it Mission Impossible, because you have so many people that get up here and acting like their neighborhood is the baddest neighborhood that exists in the universe.
Nah, who does that?
I'm not going to call no names, man. I'm not finna give them that satisfaction. But I will say this, though. All the losses, all the L's that I know of that my original homeboys took for the home team is in this book on Mission Impossible.
No bias. It's unbiased.
Well, I'm letting you know that it is what it is. You know, you can't win them all. So I got at least about 5 to 10 guys that took serious L's by Crips in Mission Impossible. And for you to get the real deal Holyfield dealing with how they took them L's, you have to get the book, the autobiography. Only costs $30 on Amazon. Author, Original Frog, is the author of the book. I don't use my real name, I use Original Frog. And that's, you have to buy it under Original Frog, the author. And the name of my book is called The Bouty Hunter Rise Again in 1976. And why I call it that? Because 1976, hey man, when them guys came out of YTS, man, in 1976, they set it on fire, man. They set it on fire. Watts lost 3 polices in the Nickerson Garden.
So did a lot of what happened in YTS create this identity? Because you said when these guys came out, it was something new. Did they invent it and create it and come up with it in YA?
Yes, it came from YA with the fist to cuff. But when they came outside, my homeboys adopted the red bandana. I was already wearing the red bandana because I was going to Centennial High, hanging out with Yellow Ice and his crew. But my homeboys was inside YTS running with Little Vince and AC and LB and them and had the red flag. So the Power Rules from the streets gave me the red rag or the red bandana, and the Power Rules in YTS gave the bounty hunters in YTS the red bandana. So I received it on the streets at the same time when they received it in the jailhouse.
So which came first?
They came first.
In YTS?
In YTS.
Okay.
They came first. I seen the pictures. When I saw the pictures and they was all wearing red bandanas, it encouraged me to wear the red bandanas even more because my original homeboys was wearing red bandanas inside the kitchen with LB and his crew.
Okay, before you go to chapter 5, can you just give me the names of the main guys that you feel had the red bandanas going on in YTS?
Here we go. On my book cover, which is right to left, that's me holding the radio, 1976. The guy that's pointing up at the sky Right behind me, that's Hard Rock with the red bandana on his head. He came out in 1976 claiming Bonnaroo. From 76 to 78, all he did was wear red bandanas on his head when nobody else was wearing them. He was serious about it. And then the guy next to him, sitting on the stage, the same stage that Rihanna was singing on, that's the same stage that we sitting on. That's the stage that hold a concert for the Nickerson Garden with Rihanna and what's his name? J who? What's his name? The rapper.
J. Cole?
No, J who? J Rock.
Oh, J Rock. From
They give concerts in Nickerson Garden on that stage, and that stage right there is me, Hard Rock, Bonnaroo, Terry Moses, Bonnaroo with the red Converse on, and then right next to him with the leather coat is Neil Matthew, also Bonnaroo. They always there, but his brother Coco is not a Bonnaroo. His brother Coco wasn't a bounty hunter or Bonnaroo. He was a hustler. You know what I'm saying? He's just supporting because his brother Neil is a Bonnaroo. But we all click it because as time goes on, a hustler is the homeboys too. We used to have fisticuffs with them in the hood, battling, but everything was cool in 76. But back in 73, there's a lot of fights between the bounty hunters and the hustlers.
So the Bonnaroos started in YTS?
YTS.
And who, if you're gonna give, let's say you're gonna put two names on who started that, which are the two top names?
I'm gonna give one name.
Okay.
LB.
LB.
Yeah, I'm giving one name. LB. I'm not giving two names. I'm gonna give it one name because it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Hey, everybody wants to have that glory of certain things. There's nothing to glorify because it's all ignorancy and stupidity. But I'm a 65-year-old man and I like to cut through the chase. I don't like just what they call giving up anything that is not truthful. You know, if a person deserves the props, I give them the props. And that's what I believe in. I give props when props is due. I don't care if you're a Crip or a Blood. If you got it coming, you got it coming.
So when LB came up with the Bonnaroo, he definitely had to have a couple of right-hand men.
Well, I'm gonna say this. I ain't gonna say that he started the word Bonnaroo, but I would tell you this. I don't think that you don't have to be how can I call it? You don't have to be a vanguard, which means on the front line, pushing a heavy line, you know, you don't always have to be there day one when everything starts, but you can be something that ignite the fire. Ignite the fire. And what I mean by ignite the fire can be like, okay, we have the Navy Marines. We have the Navy sailors, which are regular sailors. But then you have those who say, I don't want to be a Navy sailor. I want to be a Navy SEAL. I want to be the top of the best of the best. I'm not going to settle for mediocre. I'm going to settle for being the best. So I put LB in the Navy SEAL category and not just being in the Navy. He's more of a what they call a force to be reckoned with.
All right, so Chapter 5, Mission Impossible.
Also, there was a gang on the same chapter called the Central Crips, and they were located right across from the Front Street Watts Crips on the other side of Central, where it would be located now would be the Circle City, Pyros. That was all Crip neighborhood. And the bounty hunters had to go through there 1973 and 1974 to do some cleaning up. And they got turned out real quick.
Now, was Mac Thomas living over there? Because before he moved to Compton, he lived right on, I believe, 109?
On the other side.
On the north side.
On the side going towards Avalon.
Oh, okay.
The Central Crips was on the side going from Central on back towards the Haciendas, going towards where the bounty hunter stage is at. See, that is Bounty Hunter stage right there. But on the other side, it's this Crip stage on the Jack in the Box side. So them Central Crips right there, I witnessed myself. It's in my book also. No details. But I will tell you this much. In 1974, the people who I ran with, they were the last of the ones who put work in on the Central Crips that turned them out. They didn't exist no more in 74 because I saw what happened to them with my own eyes.
So we're talking about 74. Okay, so by then, Mac Thomas had already moved to Compton. I think he got to Compton around 72, 73.
Well, let me tell you something, man. It is what it is, man.
Yeah.
Everybody put a 10 on that Mac Thomas started the Compton Crips. But from my understanding, and I got good ears, and I'm not no retard, and I have pretty good sense, it wasn't Mac Thomas that really started the Compton Crips. It was Arthur Day, head honcho, and Mac Thomas' little brother, Melvin Thomas. Now, when Mac Thomas got out of prison, or YA, he took over that, but he didn't start that. He didn't origin that. He's just like a LB. He came and he set it on fire. So the guys who started it is mediocre, but the guy who put, your mama used to say, I put my foot in that soup and I know it tastes real good, don't it? Well, he put his fist in it, literally. You know what I'm saying? He ran that with an iron fist. So therefore, like I say, the reputation don't always go to the people who started something. Sometimes it goes to the person who pushed that line to the fullest.
Yeah, but Mac Thomas and Arthur Day were very tight. They ran together.
Oh yeah, he saved that for him. That was a gift. They did that and gave that to Mac. You know what I'm saying? They gave that to Mac, but he wasn't there when they started it. He came and took over. He took his. In other words, it's just like a king, man. If a king get captured in a battle, whenever they decide to release that king, he's going to take his throne right back. So if the king of Nigeria is fighting the king from South Africa, even though he lost the battle, he still don't lose his kingdomship. Because as long as he's living, he's still a king. So when they release him, 20 years later or 10 years later, he go right back to his kingdom. Even though somebody else had took over, babysitted his kingdom while he captured by the enemy, but once the enemy released that king, he's going right back to his throne. And that's how I look at it as an LB thing and a thing dealing with Mac Thomas.
Was Mac Thomas in YTS when the Bonnaroo's were being formed too? Because he did a little bit of time.
He was in TS. He wasn't. And you know what? I don't know how serious this is, but it was always a serious rumor of Mac Thomas having a fisticuff fight with my homeboy Mario Gray. And I even asked AC about it because he was there, I believe. He always mentioned about my homeboy Mario Gray. And the word was Mario Gray, being that he lived on Lansing, the borderline of the East Side Crips, where Ricky Sighty and them live at and where he stayed at, but he lived on the Bouty Hunter side. I used to see Ricky Sighty creep over on Lansing a couple of times. And, they got people that creep on borderlines just to test the water. So they always thought Mario from the Crip side was going to be with them because he went to Lock High. So when he started hanging out with the Bounty Hunters in 72 and still going to Lock High, they probably still thought he was a Crip. But when they end up in YTS in 74, 75, they probably still thought he was a Crip. But they see him rolling with the Bounty Hunters. Now they got a problem with that because they didn't know he was hanging with the Bounty Hunters. But Mario been hanging with the Bounty Hunters since 72. But the Crips always knew him from Lock High. So now they mad at him. And now when the red flags start coming in to YTS, Mario Gray was the main guy that was getting all the red bandanas from females that was coming up visiting them. He was pushing the line. And from my understanding, Mac Thomas didn't like that, because he always thought Mario had more potential to be a Crip because they lived it on the borderline, which is Lansing. But Mario always hung with us since 72. I remember me and Mario used to be on buses together, and the Crips used to throw up Crip signs thinking that he was a Crip, and he'd spit on them and tell him, I ain't no Crip, I'm a bounty hunter. And the bus would take off. So Mario was always pushing bounty hunters. And another thing about Mario, even the original bounty hunters didn't trust Mario. He was like in the middle. They thought he was gonna be a Crip. But I hung with the man all 72. He ain't never hung out with no Crips. He went to Markham, or he didn't go to Markham, he went to Gompers and Locke, and that's why a lot of people, he was caught up in the mix, man, because he was on the borderline. But when he went to YTS, he proved himself. I don't know how true it is behind him and Mac Thomas, but I think it got some truth to that, because Mario was a squabbler. And if you read Tookie's book, you'll read that Mario was in Death Row with Big Took and was playing basketball with this Crip dude. And the Crip dude kept pushing up on Mario, and Mario put hands on him right in front of Tookie. And the Crip dude went and asked Tookie for permission to hit Mario. And Tookie told him, ain't gonna be no stabbing. You gonna fight him like a man. And the dude punked out and didn't want to fight Mario. Because Mario told Tookie, read the book. He told Tookie, I ain't no punk, man. See, Mario's a high yellow guy, looked like bartender, a pretty boy type guy. But Mario's a beast inside. See, people look at people and prejudge you, but no, once you put them blenders on them or you stab them up, then they realize you ain't the one. But they might just look at your body and they don't see no muscles on you. They look at your face and hair, see you got curly hair and you look like a European, so they might can take you down. But in reality, don't judge the book by its cover, my brother, because you never know what a killer look like.
So Mario's on death row?
He died on death row about 10 years ago. Yeah, he died on death row. He sure did. He was there where they seen him. They talk about him. Now, chapter 6, Ray Boyce, paroled from YTS. December 1974. The Christmas parade jumped off. And Ray got out one day before the Christmas parade. One day he was out, the next day he walking with us down Central Avenue in the Christmas parade. And I want to tell you something about Ray Boyce. He just went to see what was going to happen. He wasn't finna kick nothing off. Ray got a rep all by himself. He don't need no bounty hunters to do nothing for him. Matter of fact, the bounty hunters, you know what I'm saying, was getting ready to jump on somebody in front of the liquor store during the Christmas parade, and Ray Boyce told everybody, ain't nobody gonna touch him. Cause the dude looked just like a Crip dog. He had muscles everywhere. He was on swole just like Ray was on swole. And Ray, the type of person like this, he don't believe in rat packing. He believe in head up fights. So they wanted to jump on him in YTS, so he probably had a flashback. He went through the same thing this dude get ready to go through, getting jumped on by a gang of people. So he checked the bounty hunters and told them, ain't nobody gonna touch him. And we all stepped back. About 20 bounty hunters was ready to jump on one big Crip, and Ray Boyce stopped them. So that's the kind of guy Ray Boyce was. He don't believe in jumping on nobody because he don't have that gang banging mentality. You know what I'm saying? He was a green jacket, and when he came home from being a green jacket, you know what I'm saying, hey, it hurt his feelings that Tyrone Tate became a Crip and dropped green jackets. He started all that interwarring in Watts. You know what I'm saying? All because he wanted to be a traitor. I don't understand, man.
So Tyrone Tate was a green jacket, but he lived on the outskirts of the Nickersons, right?
He's from the Jordan Down area.
Okay.
You got the green jacket from the Jordan Down area. You got the green jacket from 109th and Nickerson Garden area. They two branches.
Wait, wasn't he from Hickory Street?
Hickory Street's the Jordan Down area.
But Hickory,
right across from the Jordan Down is Hickory Street.
But that street is not technically not the project.
It's not the project. It's just like 109th.
Yeah.
It's not the project. The neighborhood of the projects.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is, it seems like that neighborhood part, see, everybody think because you from the project, you the killer. Because you from the project, we the baddest. It has nothing to do with where you from. It's who you are. You know what I'm saying? Huh? And just because you from Nickerson Garden, do that mean you can't die? Come on, don't be stupid. The Nickerson Garden ain't nothing but a building. It's the people that makes the building. These dudes right here that I hung with, man, they saw the Black Panthers putting work in on the police. So they saw the Black Panthers marching down the street. They always had the bounty hunters and green jacket thing. They always had police on their radars. all that time. Ever since the 60s, man. Ever since they probably was in junior high and high school and elementary. We grew up marching, imitating the Black Panthers. So we didn't come out with no revolutionary thing. We came out fighting the Crips. It wasn't Black Power this, Black Power that. And if anybody get on this stage and tell you that the beginning of the Crips and Bloods started with Huey Newton, or what's his name?
Bunchy Carter?
Bunchy Carter. You know what I'm saying? Guess what? They're lying. They're not telling the truth, man. No Crip organization.
There's an indirect connection, though.
Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
Of course, Black Panthers wore leather coats. They didn't take them, from no black people. Name one coat you heard that the Black Panthers took from a black man. Now, name all the coats the Crips took from a black man when they first came out. How is that the same thing?
No, I'm not saying it's the same thing. I'm just saying
how can you fit your mouth to even say that?
You go from Bunchy Carter to Black Panthers, you go to Craig Munson into the Avenues, direct connection, and then you go from Craig Munson to Raymond Washington to the Crips, direct connection.
Yeah.
So there is this link, as tenuous as it is, as indirect as it is, but there is this evolution from Black Panthers to Craig Munson to Avenues to Raymond Washington and the Crippin'.
I'm going to tell you like this, man. That's an old saying that they say. Don't urinate on me and tell me that it's rain. It's not rain, man. People know how to put puzzles together the way they want to put the puzzle together. But I live this. I've been from Nickerson Gardens since 1964, 65, a little boy. I've been from the east side in Watts since 1964, 65, a little boy, all the way till I became in my 50s. Can't nobody tell me nothing about no gangbangers being revolutionary. I can tell you this, yes, they wore leather coats. They did that.
Bunchy Carter was a Slauson?
I'm not talking about Bunchy Carter.
But he was a gang member?
I'm talking about Raymond Washington, talking about Tookie, talking about Barefooted Pookie, talking about Donald Archie, talking about all these guys who was doing their thing, taking leather coats, beating up brothers, turning over out funerals, stomping brothers for their leather coat downtown.
Here's my question. If the FBI and the COINTELPRO did not dismantle Geronimo Pratt, Bunchy Carter, John Huggins, and pretty much either killed them or put them in prison, would the West Side Crips and the East Side Crips end up being the same thing if these brothers who were revolutionaries were on the streets? Because by the time we get to 1970, 71, 72, the government dismantled all of those brothers.
Okay, that's a good question, man. I'm gonna tell you like this, man. In reality, man, I can actually say I don't know how that would have turned out, that if part, but in reality, I do know that as you get older in life and you start realizing, like I realized, that everything I did was stupidity. If I would have been somebody that got paid to do that, I'd probably be living a lavish life. But the whole thing is this. It's shameful. And I understand that a person don't want dirt following them all their life. I understand that we don't like, at the age we are, to have smut on us. We want to have a clean slate. But I will say this, man. The only way your slate gonna get clean is you got to pray to the Lord and believe in the Lord Jesus Christ. Other than that, you're going to have to deal with everything that you did in life. So you can't sweep nothing under the rug, you know what I'm saying, and act like it never happened. And act like, we were revolutionary, when in reality, you know what I'm saying, everybody who was there and in their right mind today can tell you that no Crips, no bounty hunters, power rules, or bishops, or anything came out talking about black power. Everything came out dealing with materialistic. And when I say materialistic, taking things from people of their own color, robbing people for what they did. Like Too Pretty Kenny said, he gave it up right. They catch you on the bus, they'll rob you. They catch you on Broadway in 7th, they'll rob you. They catch you with with a leather coat at a club, they'll rob you. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with Little Vince. They try to take his hat. How you think the Power Rules and the Crips didn't get along? They was trying to be cool with each other for a while. They want to take Little Vince's hat, you know what I'm saying? And messed up everything. They always came out being materialistic, taking people property. You know what I'm saying? Point blank. Everything else is, I hate to say it, is garbage, man.
But some of the revolutionaries were taking property, were robbing banks. In fact, Mutulu Shakur, who just passed, rest in peace, Mutulu Shakur, I mean, he took down 3 police officers so he can get to the bank, so they can get some money, you know? So the taking of material possessions is part of the Revolutionary Act. You don't think Huey P. Newton and John Seale and all them dudes, you don't think they ain't never robbed nothing? Even though they was pro-black?
That's not my point. I'm not tripping. My point is this. My point is this. I'm a human being, and they human beings taking the platform. And I know how human beings get down. A human being is like this. Either you have remorse when you do something evil, or you don't have remorse. Majority of the people in the world, when they go before God, they gonna have an excuse of what they did it for. They're not gonna repent. They're not gonna ask for forgiveness. They gonna just have an excuse, like this is going on. An excuse. No. That's all it is. You know what I'm saying? And what's so funny about it? They got people that go to court that know they got blood all on them. You know what I'm saying? Got caught with the knife in their hand, killed up the whole family, mother, kids, and everybody. They not gonna confess to nothing right today. Right today. Because it's in our hearts like that. People always want to change the script when you get caught dead bang. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to confess because now when you confess, everybody know the truth.
Okay, before you continue reading, last question. I want to know, how did Ray Boyce feel when he found out that Tyrone Tate started a whole new thing over there called Hickory? I don't know what it was called then. Hickory Street Crips?
Yes. Okay.
You said you used the word traitor.
Yeah.
Take me to that point in time, how y'all was feeling.
Okay, this is how I look at it. At the time, when Tyrone got into it with Mac Thomas, the tree incident, when that era was going on, he was represented to the fullest. Why would you want to put hands on a Crip shot caller and then turn Crip? Why? Because you was anti-Crip at that time, because you was green jacket mentality at that time. That's the reason why. Now, as time goes on, you want to start your own Crip gang. You know what I'm saying? And AC said the same thing about the guy from Figueroa Boys. He said, what's his name, Miles?
The Miles.
Yeah. Out of all that fighting, they got into it with the Crips. The leader of the Figueroa Boy went out to Pomona and started the Trade 57. Out of all that fighting. So you fighting the Crips and then you become a Crip out of all this. And I'm gonna tell you how I look at that. I look at that as weak. That's all I look at it as weak. A weak individual, because it's like this. They say all birds of the feather flock together, but guess what? Who's the leader of that? In other words, only way I become a leader after fighting my enemies, I had to call shots over everything. I'm not going to take a position at the bottom because Hickory Street Crips was not a factor. You only had Mario and Tony Haywood. I'm no more than 5 of them. They wasn't a factor. They didn't become large until they became the Jordan Down Crips in 73. But in 72, they wasn't no factor. We didn't have no problem with them. Tyrone Tate, he lied and said that he came through the Nickerson Garden and shot his way up out of there. He lied on that. He said that we kidnapped him and all that. He lied on that. Tyrone Tate was our homeboy. He was a real green jacket. We wasn't gonna kidnap no Tyrone Tate. Junior Thomas had love for Tyrone Tate. All the homeboys had love for Tyrone Tate. Our enemies at that time was Carver Park, Zane, and little James Compton from 118 block on that side going towards Compton. Anything in Watts, they would still consider us the homies. We wasn't tripping on the Jordan down, but the PJs, we gave them the blues back in 73, 72. But the Jordan Downs, we always had love for them. You know what I'm saying? They can't never say that we drove through their hood in 72 and 73 and 74 and shot their hood up. That never happened. But we did it to Carver, we did it to the PJs. You know what I'm saying? We never did nothing like that to the Jordan Down because of our relationship with them. Only thing Tyrone is doing in my eyes is this. Putting a 10 on something just to make himself look like he's that guy. You know what I'm saying? Because you showed him come in the middle of our gym field and then shot your way up out of there all the way to Compton Avenue. You know what I'm saying? Then the homeboys took you, talking about they kidnapped you in the car. Come on, man. You know what I'm saying?
Have you ever had a chance to talk to Tyrone?
Man, you know what? Let me tell you something about that, man. People who say ridiculous things that don't make no sense to me, I wouldn't give them a time of the day, man. I think it's an insult to get up there and say things that are not true, especially things that are ridiculously not true. You know what I'm saying? Shooting your way out the Nickerson Garden. You had a 25 automatic in your sock and you shot your way out. You know what I'm saying? And,
why does that sound so impossible?
Because we loved him, man.
But you at the same time you just said he was looked at as a traitor.
Yes, he was looked at as a traitor. You can still love a traitor. Your brother can be a snitch and you can still love your brother. Not just because a person do bad to you, you know what I'm saying? Because if that would have been the case, man, check this out, man. The only reason why 110 Crip don't exist today is because they brought it on themselves. The bounty hunters wasn't tripping on them guys to the point where they wanted to kill them, but they started shooting at the original bounty hunters. That's what the problem came in at. We was whooping their butts, taking their leather coats. Joe took Tony Haywood leather coat. He never shot him, never stabbed him. But when you get to shooting at people, now the gloves coming off. Tyrone Tate ain't never shot nobody from my hood, never came through my hood shooting at nobody. Him, Alfred never did none of that. None of them pygmies never did none of that. You know what I'm saying? As a matter of fact, we got homeboys that hooked up with their homegirls. Michael DeRoe got kids by original Jordan Down female that mess with Tyrone crew on their side. So we never had that type of mentality on them to shoot them up like that. We never did no drive-bys in their hood, you know what I'm saying, back in the 70s, fist fighting all day long. The original bounty hunters fist fighted, man. That's where we got our rep from, you know what I'm saying? I think that a person that keep running to a gun is a buster anyway. So you need to know how to knuckle them up. I even went back on the track fighting against Eddie Brown, Cedric McGill, you know, and that's where I'm at right now.
Okay, continue.
It's called Chapter 7, Watts Battleground. Markham Junior High is where all the bounty hunters had to go up if they wanted to get their fade on with anybody from Watts that's claiming Crip. If you go up to that junior high school, to the back of their tracks, you're going to get your fade. You know what I'm saying? And I liked it that. I liked it to know that I can walk across the track without somebody trying to kill me. And they're going to either fight me or not fight me. I didn't come from the eras of cowards where they run the guns and got to kill somebody. And you've been knowing them since elementary and since junior high school. Now you want to kill them? Huh? Come on, man. Huh? We grew up in the era of honor and respect. You know what I'm saying? Everything don't deserve a pistol. You know what I'm saying? An individual that you know before they was a Crip, they should be able to come to your hood and ask for a fade and you give it to them instead of blowing their brains out. You know what I'm saying? That's a real man, you know? But the battleground, I liked that battleground. And the reason why I liked it, because the element of surprise. You know? See, people be thinking just because you walk on Compton Avenue and that's the street that you patrol, that nobody won't come over there and check you. See, we used to do that to them, intimidate them, go in their neighborhood and fight them. But there's this one guy that I know who had hard enough to come all the way on the Hacienda side of Markham, the side that the original bounty hunters patrolled. And that was Philip Day. He's the one. He's that bold guy. He's the guy like me and Michael Smith. We'll go on their side and fight them. He didn't have no fist-to-cuff thing with us, but he did come over and fronted us off like he had a gun. I don't think he really had a gun, but I didn't know if he had one. I knew me and Mr. T didn't have no gun, AKA Michael Smith, when he caught us slipping, and that's another story that you have to read about. Okay. I also want to go to the subject of the West Side Lanes. And I actually remember how I used to roll with them guys and hang out in their neighborhood and hanging out on 112th with them and Fig. And everybody used to be right there, man. Everybody used to hang out right there. That was the headquarters, 112th and Fig, Mafia Lane. All the lanes was hanging out right there. Peabody House on 109th probably was the second headquarters. But I remember I was kicking back one day, hanging out over there with Peabody and Preach from Mafia Lane and Peabody from Diver Lane, and a lowrider car come pulling up. And I noticed the guy in the lowrider car on the passenger side. I know this guy, but I can't pinpoint him. But I know this guy from somewhere. And everybody got to whispering, that's the bartender. That's the bartender from Lotus Park. That's the bartender. I said, oh, I was at the Watts Festival with him, 1974. Fast forward, here it is, 75 now. That's where I know him from. And guess what? Bartender, man, he's a motivator speaker, man. He came over there like he was Huey P. Newton, pushing the line for all the gangs against the Crips. He was letting it be known. And guess what? He didn't even have no red flag. He's the first person I ever seen with a burgundy flag. And he's the original. So everybody talking about Pyru started with the burgundy rag. No, it didn't. Pyru started from the red bandana from Pyru Street. And the only person that was flagging a burgundy bandana at the time, everybody else was wearing red bandanas. Bounty hunters and Pyrus, everybody wearing red bandanas except Bartender. He's the only one that had a burgundy flag.
Now, outside of the bounty hunters and the Pyrus at this time, were you aware of any other sets that were embracing the color red? The Brims, the Outlaws, the Rolling 20s Bloods. Were there any other sets at this time that are starting to embrace, all of the non-Crip sets starting to embrace red and the red bandana?
I'll put it to you this way. I guarantee you, you cannot find an original Brim, original Outlaw, anything that claiming against the Crips. You can't find not one in the 70s, mid-70s or early 70s with a picture holding a red bandana. Not one original. Not one. And I'm talking about I would go from 75, from 75 on up to 77.
Okay. Cause
nobody had that but the Pyrus and Bounty Hunters. I bet you, and now, if you got out of YTS, like my Bounty Hunter homeboys were still coming home from YTS, all of them was coming home with red flags in 77, 78, claiming Bounty Hunters and still with the red flag. They didn't claim Bonnaroo because all the original Bounty Hunters and Bonnaroo was gone. They came home in 76. So those who came out in 77 and 78, they were the Bloods Foundation because there was no more Bonnaroos. The Blood Foundation is what? The red bandana. You know what I'm saying? That's the Blood Foundation, you know? So Bloods already existed once they touched down in 76. And once they was in YTS in 75, 74, it already existed. But when they touched down in 76, now it wasn't no more time to wear flags. Far as when I say wear flags, it was time to get cracking, man, because they lost Tab. Tab got lost in 75, you know what I'm saying? And so that right there was a burden right there. So, you know, rest in peace to to Mr. Tab. You know what I'm saying? I knew him personally. And we used to actually kick it together.
Now, there had to be at least some Athens Parks, some Denver Lanes wearing the red bandana in the late 70s at some point. Maybe we don't got photos of them, but...
Well, I went to Locke and I went to Centennial. And I went to Locke first. And when I was at Locke High, no Athens Park boys wasn't flagging, but I was flagging. No Denver Lanes was flagging, but I was flagging. None of my homeboys was flagging, but I was flagging. You know what I'm saying? And I'm going to tell you something about that. Influence, my brother. Influence. In order for you to do something, you always have to be influenced by somebody else. It's always somebody. Sometimes you can't even find the origin because the origin of certain things are so deep. And then when you found out the origin, oh man, okay. The origin, this is the origin. The origin is the red bandana. And who had the red bandana? And I go back to 1974 again. The Paru had the red bandana. You can't take that from them. You can't take it from them. And when I was flagging it, I was still hollering out Bouty Hunter. But to me, it was just against the Crip. It had nothing to do with Paru on mine, but I'm rolling with the Parus, flagging their flag. You know what I'm saying? I didn't see nobody from Locke High with no red flag. I can remember that same field, track and field, that the brother got killed in by the Backstreet Crip. What's his sister name again?
Valerie Briscoe Hooks.
I'm the only one, God is my witness, standing in the middle of that same track and field with a red flag all the way down, out my back pocket, playing football, throwing the ball, and everybody tripping off of me. Say, Frog, you better tuck that, you better tuck that, you better tuck that. I wasn't tucking nothing. You want me to tell you why? I wasn't tucking nothing? Because I was secure within myself. I was at Locke High long enough to know that they wasn't no real killers up there, or, you know, getting a squab on ain't nothing, man. Fist fighting is nothing, man. That's just like breathing. But now, if they was up there killing people behind wearing red flags, that'd be different. You know what I'm saying? Now, I wouldn't wear no red flag at Washington High. Locke High got at this port, Bouty Hunter.
Well, I know a lot of...
I had the Bouty Hunters going there with me. I turned them out. People who weren't even Bouty Hunters. They were hustlers, and they became Bouty Hunters under my influence.
Well, there's going to be quite a few people that say that they were rocking the red bandana.
I want to see a picture.
I know.
I can show you a picture of LB and Little Vince.
Yeah.
I can show you that picture. That's not that. You know what I'm saying? Little Vince is throwing up the B, and LB is throwing up the P. LB got a red bandana, and Little Vince got a red Pendleton on. So I got a picture of that. Now, you show me anybody else that got a picture, you know what I'm saying, earlier than 75, throwing up the blood sign or the Paru sign or a Devil Lane sign or any Brim sign with a red flag on them. And I'm talking about original, not no bicentennial, man. I'm talking about somebody that was there day one. You show me a person and what year he had that red flag, and then I can believe something. I don't go by, because there's too many liars on here, man. People get up here and act like they super blood. People get up here and act like they know everybody, know everything. And I'm gonna tell you, man, this platform and every platform that's out here, it's nothing to play with, man. People done lost their lives, done lost their sons, done lost their daughters. People done still going to the graveyard crying behind this stupid madness that we got ourselves into. Now everything now is about acting like a clown, stupidity, arguing over things that is not arguable. Don't nobody bring no evidence to nothing. They just want to just pick and choose who they argue with. I'm cool on that, man. I'm a gang historian. I come out here to teach the people, you know what I'm saying, and not to glorify. And I hope that people will realize that all these incidents are stupid incidents. And I pray to God that this stuff would stop and everybody would hate it more than they hate the American racist system. For as when I say American racist system, I'm talking about dealing with racism on the workforce, racism all through the fabric of America. You know, we need to hate gangbanging like we hate that. And then maybe we'll grow more instead of trying to act like we superheroes, because we're not superheroes. We're really zeros, because we're going against the struggle. And the struggle is freedom. And freedom means have freedom of thought, freedom of living, freedom of speech, you know. So we want to have the same thing that people in America have. Nice houses, nice cars, nice job. But they deprive us from that. So we have to work harder, you know. Don't give up. Just keep doing what you're doing and get your money. But at the same time, don't be a sellout. You got a lot of people on here sellouts, man. You know what I'm saying? You got people acting like they the mailman, the postman, and they going around starting trouble with people, acting like, what they call that guy, Judas and the Black Messiah. This dude here, Fred Hampton, gets snitched on because the FBI put a black man right beside him to find out everything he's doing to kill him. And they gave the black man a gas station. But the fool turned around and commit suicide. Sound like Melly Mel to me, you know what I'm saying? People that be going around starting things, man. Looking for trouble, you know what I'm saying? Trying to capitalize off of people miseries, you know what I'm saying? Trying to get homeboys to go against homeboys and then turn around and roll with rats and snitches and stuff like that, you know? Yeah, I can't get down like that. Now, if you got evidence, somebody telling, that's cool too. But if you ain't got no evidence and you know that they went to court on you, that's cool too. That's between you and God. I ain't got to prove nothing to nobody because I already know, you know what I'm saying, the real ones. And when I say the real ones that go to court on you, man. And that's in my book also. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to put no names out there, but read the book and you'll find out that Great Street started by somebody telling in the courtroom. Now, put that puzzle together. Now we're going to go to Original Frog versus Breakdown from Carver Park. This guy, Breakdown, Centennial High, he was like their Goliath. He was a troublemaker. He liked it, looking for problems. One day he came up to me, not even knowing me, but somebody done told him I was a bounty hunter, because Terry Carter, every time he see me walking through Centennial, he'll holler out, "Bounty Hunter Frog!" And all the rips will be looking at me. Like, I'm fresh into school, no more than 3 months in school, and he hollering out Bounty Hunter Frog. And even when I walk down Power Street, "Bounty Hunter Frog!" I couldn't tell him to shut up, you know what I'm saying? So I just had to accept it, you know what I'm saying? But all the Crips knew me. So one day, Breakdown came up and wrote a big giant CPC, Carver Park Crip, right by my foot. Don't even know me. But somebody told him who I was. And I had that grudge on him ever since. I think I waited for 6 months, maybe a year to go by. Man, I took the homeboys up there with me, man. And I don't care what band I'm talking about, because I was there. I lived it. And it's in my book, too. Front Hood Bam. They ran when they saw us coming. It was 5-on-5, and they ran out the square and left, what's his name? Alvin Whiteside there by himself. I salute that brother. He was the only one that was standing there when we walked up on him.
From
and
Carver?
He's from Mona Park.
Okay.
And he hollered, breakdown, y'all come back here. He was mad because they ran and left him by himself. That man got heart. We could have jumped on him and mopped him up, but he stood there and looked at us like, yeah, what's next? He got heart. He reminded me of a real one. I know real ones when I see one. You know what I'm saying? But them guys that ran, they came back with change, bike chains, poles, mini sticks, huh?
Why didn't you take off on Breakdown when he did that CPC?
Because I was fresh. When you fresh, you got to learn your area. It's just like, hey, when you're jumping out of the airplane in the middle of Germany, you better know if you're behind enemy lines, or if you're on the battle line, or if you're on the friendly line. You got to know your surroundings before you do anything. That's called intelligence. So I had to use my intelligence. And Bam said from Front Hood that they ran Centennial High. Man, that's a lie, man. And then he had the nerve to say that he snatched Frank Padaway from West Side Paru Street, no, not Paru Street, 137. He said he snatched his red bandana out of his back pocket. Man, check this out, man. Man, that's what I be tripping on.
What's the age difference between you and Bam? Because maybe
1 year. 1 year. We went to school together.
Oh.
He was there. He saw the fight. We talked over the phone about it.
At Centennial.
And I told him, I said, bruh, Melly Mel put me and him on the phone together because he didn't like that I made a statement on Calv Matt saying that the Carver Park, not the Carver Park, but yeah, that the Carver Parks ran when we hit the field, when we hit the square on him. He didn't like that. So he put him on the phone and I ended up talking to him. He arguing with me. I said, check that, man. Check it out. We can sing together all day long, but we can't talk together, homie. Bottom line is this, man, they ran. And I'm here to stand on that they ran. And I would never change that they ran because it's the truth. God is my witness. They ran. In the name of Jesus Christ, your homeboys ran. And Alvin Whiteside was the only one that stood tall like a real one. Alvin Whiteside, I didn't know this at the time. He stabbed one of my homeboys in Watts, our original bounty hunter. Rest in peace. He didn't kill him. He sliced his back arm. Joe Barker and Big E saw a car going down Central. The light caught him right on 114, going towards Imperial. They ran in the middle of the street and they start squabbling. Alvin Whiteside sliced my homeboy arm in the middle of Central in 114 because they got caught up in bounty hunter territory, and my homeboys rushed him. But my homeboy didn't know they had a knife though. So one of my homeboys was in the hospital for about a week or two with his whole back arm sliced up. You know, they had to stitch him up. If I would have knew Alvin Whiteside did that at the time I got down with Breakdown, oh my God, homie, I don't know how that would have ended, man. But it's good that we don't know everything about everything because it's just like, man, people bump heads, man, sometimes and done did things to each other, homeboys and family members, and don't even know it until they end up in jail together. Well, what you in jail for, cuz? Oh, man, I did whoa. Say, cuz, that was my sister you did that to. Say, cuz, that was my brother you did that to. Say, what you in jail for, blood? Oh, I'm in here for such and such and such. Oh, man, that was my mama you killed, man. Man, that was my grandfather you shot, man. So I don't put myself out there like that, man. I kick back. It's just like I knew Cute was that guy at the Watts Festival, day one. But I wasn't gonna speak on it. Why am I gonna speak on something I ain't got no evidence? You know what I'm saying? You don't, just like FBI. They listen on telephones. They tap in to get information. And then 5 years later, they come and knocking on your door once you snitch on yourself. You know what I'm saying? So they can know you did it, but that don't mean they finna come at you unless they get some evidence. So I'm not an FBI, but I am a person of intelligence, and I will listen. Because guess what? You learn more when you listen. You learn a lot when you listen, And people need to just kick back and listen and learn instead of acting like they want to be an original. You know what I'm saying? We all can't be originals, man. So some people just need to kick back and learn and thinking like they know everything. I know that on this platform, people need money to feed their children or buy for gas or deal with the rent. But in reality, man, don't capitalize off this gang history, man, for capitalism. Okay, I want to say this. On the Ray Boyce versus Killer Joe Barker.
Okay.
The fight was a hell of a fight that I only can say that two people went to sleep and there was one man standing out of that fight. Two people went to sleep. Joe Barker versus Ray Boyce. Ray Boyce versus Joe Barker. Two people went to sleep. One man standing. You do the math.
So we got to get the book to get the whole story on that squabble.
Without a doubt, you got to get the book. And it's a fight that I never ever seen in my 56 years. I mean, my 65 years.
Okay. I just want to know, out of Joe Barker and Ray Boyce, who was the bigger, taller guy? Just so we can get a picture of what was going on.
It would be like, Marvin Hagler fighting Mike Tyson.
Okay.
Yeah, one of them type
So
of
a middleweight fighting a heavyweight.
Yes.
And who would be the middleweight out of the two?
Joe
Okay.
Barker's middleweight.
And Ray Boyce is the heavyweight.
Ray heavyweight.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do do you explain why these two guys were butting heads on this particular day in the first place in your book?
Well, I'm going to just go this far. Straw Dog, a.k.a. Gary Barker, is the origin. And I'm going to leave it like that. He's the origin of that fight.
Okay.
No more.
And on a previous interview you did with me, one of those bros got into a fight in Carver Park and got knocked out, huh?
That was Joe.
Joe.
That was Joe by Lil James Compton, allegedly. But we hanging on that because it's 99 more truth than false.
Okay. And James is still around.
And James, I ran into James before.
But James, wait.
I haven't seen him since 2012 is when I ran into him.
But are you talking about James from 118?
James Compton, James, 118 block.
But he was at Carver Park.
They emerged. It's like, check it out, what you have to understand is this. People with leadership have to be intelligent enough to know that I have to hook up with this guy that got leadership, that representing the same thing I'm representing to make myself stronger. So he knew by him hanging around the Carver Park Crips, Zane and Roy Tucker, he knew automatically that strengthened him and his forces. Just like the Bonnaroo. They knew by being in YTS, they had to hook up to keep the cheat up off of them. Can't nobody just say, this is Pyru. Oh, when you hollering out Pyru, guess what? Compton Crips gonna be on you. And the Bounty Hunter's gonna be like, what's that about? You holler out Bounty Hunter, and the Eastside Crips be on you, Compton and Pyru's gonna be like, what that's about? But if you holler out Bob, Bonnaroo, now that's two gangs. Mm-hmm. So people have to be smart enough to know how to, the word is called strategize.
All right, so give us your final thoughts on this.
My final thought on this is that in my chapter 13, I did so much evil. It's the longest page, the longest chapter of all my chapters. And when I read it, it seems like I was just young, dumb. That's all it seemed like, because I was fighting a lot of demons when my mother passed. And I probably transformed into a demon and didn't know it. And I feel real guilty by having that demonic spirit control me like that. I was suffering to the point to where I didn't want to live no more, and I hated my enemies even more. So maybe that's the reason why I did what I did, because I was on a suicide mission and didn't know it. And I'm gonna let you know that I have 16 chapters altogether of nothing but drama. And it is very, very hot, too hot for TV. And everything in it is the truth. I will not get up here and fabricate or lie or make myself out of something that I'm not. Only thing I can do is read my history and repent, to never repeat it again. And that's what history is all about. It's a learning experience. We learn from our mistakes. And that's what I have learned from my mistakes. And that's why I've been out going on 17 years, because I learned from my mistakes. And it's called one word. And I'm gonna close with this one word. It's called maturity. God bless you.